Welcome to the Movie Spoiler Club, the channel where you can watch movie, television, and streaming series within minutes. Today we're going to spoil the movie Spider-Man 3, 2007. This movie story plot is about Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire, and MJ, Kirsten Dunst, seem to finally be on the right track in their complicated relationship. But trouble looms for the superhero and his lover. Peter's Spider-Man suit turns black and takes control of him, not only giving Peter enhanced power but also bringing out the dark side of his personality. Peter must overcome the suit's influence as two supervillains, Sandman and Venom, rise up to destroy him and all those he holds dear. The feeling sets up during the opening credits of this movie. The complicated web of this story unfolds, revealing prevalent scenes from the previous films. Peter Parker getting bit by a genetically modified spider during his senior year of high school. The iconic kiss shared between Spider-Man and Mary Jane in the rain. Each scene breathing life into this tale, reminding us of everything that has happened to Peter Parker and asking what else is to come. The scene opens up to Spider-Man swinging leisurely through the city during the daytime. There's a lightness in his voice. Peter assures us that life is good. The city loves him. Mary Jane loves him. He is doing well in school, and he still has a job with the Daily Bugle. Things are finally looking up for Peter Parker. Things are so good that Peter is eyeing an engagement ring at the local jewelers. Peter aims to propose to Miss Mary Jane and start their future. It appears that the weight in his chest has been lifted because he has struck a balance between Peter and Spider-Man. He is both hero and charming nerdy boyfriend. Peter strolls into the theater, grabbing tickets at will call, stealing a seat for himself before the show begins, and gloating to his neighbors about his girlfriend. Harry Osborn is also attending the show. After the show, Peter goes to see Mary Jane and congratulate her on a fantastic show. She thanks him happily for the flowers, and mentions that she was surprised to find that Harry showed as well, pointing to the large display of roses next to Peter's. Peter is just as surprised, but these two haven't been as close as one might think recently. Mary Jane smiles excitedly at Peter as she affectionately comments, "Peter, you're such a nerd." Peter's smile doesn't fade in the slightest when she says it, because when Mary Jane says it, it doesn't sting like it used to. After the show, Peter does see Harry leaving the theater, but Harry doesn't seem to notice Peter calling after him. That night, Peter and Mary Jane are enjoying a quiet and romantic evening, stargazing in a spiderweb hung between two trees. Meanwhile, Harry Osborn is alone in a green, ominous gas chamber. He emerges from the green fog, staring angrily. This imagery raises several questions. During the couple's stargazing rendezvous, a meteor crashes through the Earth's atmosphere, unknowingly to the canoodling couple who are enjoying each other's warm embrace. The meteor lands on the forest floor, and while the embers burn out, a creepy liquid goo crawls out from the flaming rock. The lovebirds are on their way home. The two hops on Peter's moped and drive away, but not before the ominous goo attaches itself to the bike. Peter drops Mary Jane off for the night, sees Aunt May for a quick chat, and then heads on home himself. Before he arrives, he is brutally attacked by someone gliding on a familiar hoverboard. How could that be? Is the Green Goblin back from the dead? No, it's Harry Osborn. Harry is out for revenge on Peter Parker and is taking this opportunity to settle the score once and for all. Peter relies on his quick reflexes to dodge every punch from Harry. Peter tries to tell Harry that he did kill his father, but Harry is too furious to listen. During this intense fight, Peter drops the engagement ring his Aunt May gave him earlier. Peter loses his focus on the fight and focuses on catching that ring before he loses it. Time moves in slow motion, and Peter snatches the ring in the air, and then tries to escape Harry. Harry isn't going to give up and flies after Peter, matching his every turn. Not only is Harry keeping up with Peter as he bobs and weaves through the city, but he also has various weaponized gadgets to use against Peter. When one of the gadgets malfunctions and threatens him, he is distracted for a moment and loses Peter. Then Harry gets clotheslined by one of Peter's web threads. Harry spills onto the floor, lifeless. Peter grows concerned and jumps down to check on Harry. When Harry doesn't respond to Peter's presence, Peter cries for help and then realizes he needs to get Harry to a hospital. Will Harry Osborn be okay? Or did Peter accidentally murder Harry? Later that week, Peter saves a fellow classmate from falling over 52 floors to her death. A crane loses control and smashes through the building. Spider-Man swings in to save the day. When Stacy is safe and sound, then the flash of a camera catches Spider-Man off guard. The man behind the camera is Eddie Brock, the new photographer for Spider-Man for the Daily Bugle. Spider-Man is confused because he thought that was his job. The woman he saved happens to be the police chief's daughter, and so a parade is thrown in Spider-Man's honor. Peter is floating on Cloud 9, The whole city loves him. He is finally the cool kid, the hero, and the heartthrob. Mary Jane is suffering a streak of bad luck, having just recently been recast from her play. As bitter as she feels, she manages a warm smile and upbeat attitude at Peter's parade. Harry has recovered but seems to have suffered a mild case of short-term memory loss. He can't seem to remember his conflict with Peter and is happy to chat with Mary Jane. Lately, the city is suffering from a new villain. This string of crimes leaves a mysterious trail of beach sand behind. This villain was born from an escaped criminal turned Sandman. Sandman attempts to rob a bank car full of cash. Spider-Man drops in to stop him but quickly finds that this isn't an ordinary bad guy. The Sandman gets away. Despite the mishap earlier, Peter has big plans. Tonight, he made dinner reservations for Mary Jane and himself at a fancy French restaurant. Tonight, Peter will toast to their future together. Mary Jane will lift her glass to take a drink and find Aunt May's engagement ring at the bottom of her glass. She will look to Peter, who will already be down on his knee proposing. Mary Jane arrives dressed in black and happy to see her date. Peter is feeling confident and can't seem to stop talking about himself. Mary Jane is growing impatient. And then the couple is interrupted by Gwen Stacy. Gwen comes over to gush about Peter, thank him again for saving her, and make comment after comment about what a great guy he is. Mary Jane can't help but squint curiously at Peter while he humors Gwen. It seems that Peter has never mentioned the likes of Gwen Stacy, but she can't stop talking about how close of friends they are. MJ can't stand Peter's dirty little secret. MJ storms out, and the night is ruined. The champagne is served but there are no toasts tonight. Peter plucks the ring from the bottom of the glass and heads home alone. In the morning, there's a phone call requesting Peter and Aunt May to go to the detective's office. They are informed that the man convicted of Uncle Ben's murder was the wrong man. The man who is guilty of the murder escaped recently and goes by the name Flint Marcos. The police can't find him. Peter recognizes him immediately as the Sandman. Peter returns to his empty apartment to process the news. As he drifts to sleep, he dreams of Uncle Ben, the Sandman, the man that fell from the building that night Uncle Ben was murdered. And while he dreamt, the mysterious liquid goo makes its way to Peter. It starts growing and gluing itself to Peter until he is completely covered in goo. Peter wakes just as the process is complete and finds himself in a new glossy and matte black Spidey suit. On the hunt for the Sandman, Peter follows the trail and sneaks up on the mutant criminal. They fight in the tunnels and the Sandman lands in a puddle. His sandy arm turns to muck and disintegrates. Spidey unleashes a gigantic barrel of water on the Sandman, washing him away. Spider-Man got his revenge. The revenge that he wanted so long ago. This time revenge tastes sweet, as Peter and MJ relationship is simmering on the back burner. Harry invites MJ to dinner at his place. MJ agrees politely, and the two enjoy a flirty evening making omelets. MJ appreciates that Harry pays attention to her. Harry enjoys her company. The two joke and laugh together. They share a kiss, but MJ's heart quickly fills with regret. She apologizes and leaves abruptly. Shortly after, Harry is having a drink and his father's voice interrupts his thoughts and sends a series of flashbacks through Harry's mind. Every scene reminds Harry of what he forgot. Norman orders Harry to attack Peter's heart. Harry attacks Mary Jane and threats to hurt Peter if she doesn't break up with him. The next day, Mary Jane ends things with Peter. Peter meets with Harry to go over the details of the breakup. Harry listens to every word and then begins to divulge his secret. He confesses they shared a kiss, and now they are a couple. Harry is the new man. Peter leaves in disbelief. He leaves the cafe shocked and upset. Once home, he gets an idea. The new Spider-Man shows up at Harry's home and is looking for a fight. The gadgets are hard to combat, but Spider-Man slams Harry against a wall of beakers that shatter on the floor. It looks like Spider-Man might end this battle once and for all. Harry eggs him on, but Peter walks away. Harry launches a green orb at Spider-Man, but he catches it in his web shooter and flings it back at Harry. This orb blows up after hitting Harry. Can Harry survive a grenade bomb? The new Spider-Man has created a new Peter Parker who isn't afraid to ask for more. He lands a staff position with the Daily Bugle. He confronts Eddie Brock and ruins his career. He charmed his way into the heart of Gwen Stacy. Peter Parker is killing it these days despite losing the love of his life and his best friend in the same week. Eddie Brock is having a tough week. He lost his girl he admired, Gwen Stacy, and his job with the Daily Bugle because of Peter Parker. He finds himself praying to God that someone does something about Peter Parker. As Eddie prays for death on Peter, Spider-Man is confronting his own internal battles. He realizes that the suit may have some negative traits. He tries to pry the suit off of him. As he rips the suit from his skin, parts of the liquid goo drip off and falls to the ground. Some of the goo lands on Eddie Brock. Enough goo sticks to attach itself to Eddie to create Venom. Venom finds Sandman, who hasn't melted away. The two team up to take on Spider-Man. They devise a plan to kidnap Mary Jane and lure Spider-Man to their final battle. Mary Jane grabs a cab but finds herself in a world of trouble. Venom has hijacked the cab and strung it up suspended through the air. MJ trapped inside, pleading for help. The scene makes the news and Spider-Man are on the way. First, he drops in on Harry Osborn for help. Harry is alive but he doesn't want to help Peter. Peter arrives at the scene alone and tries to free MJ. This fight is 2 against 1, and Spider-Man might not be able to win this. The two team up and seem to be winning while MJ life swings in the balance. Just when it looks like it's over for Peter, Harry Osborn shows up to defend Spider-Man. Together, the two friends take on the bad guys until Venom gets a fatal hit on Harry. Venom stabs Harry through the chest with his hoverboard and Harry falls to the ground. The goo suit triples in size and takes on a form of its own. Spider-Man uses a green orb grenade and hurls it at the creature. Eddie Brock tries to stop Spider-Man but as soon as the grenade lands, they both blow up. Then Spider-Man meets with the Sandman. Peter gets the Sandman to lower his defenses. He knows that Flint is the one who murdered his uncle, but Flint insists it isn't what Peter thinks. He learns that Flint was a thief because his daughter has a life-threatening illness. He was trying to help pay for her treatments. He was just supposed to steal a car. He had a gun but he didn't mean to use it. The weapon fired by accident and his accomplice took off without him. He was forced to flee the scene. Peter forgives the Sandman and he blows away in the wind. Harry dies, but their friendship is mended before his last breath. After Harry's funeral, Peter shows up at the jazz club where Mary Jane works and they share a moment. Could this mean there's still a chance for love with these two? Movie trivia. Do you know that it took 3 years to create the visual effects required to portray the Sandman's powers? To understand the dynamics of sand, various experiments were conducted with sand, launching sand at stuntmen, splashing the stuff around, and pouring it over ledges. Sand sculptors were also consulted for advice. This movie gets the movie rating of 6.2 from IMDb, Tomatometer rating of 62 and audience score of 51 from Rotten Tomatoes. Thank you for watching and be sure to hit like, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comment section, and hit the notification bell for the new movie spoiler video every week.